Welcome to the deep dive. You're here, I imagine, because you want to get past the headlines and really understand things more deeply.
Yeah, cut through the noise.
Exactly. And today, we're digging into a really, well, quite ambitious book. It's called Civic Party, The Philocratic Renaissance.
By Harry Papageorgiou and Andreas Sarkosis.
Right. And these authors, they really don't hold back. They're tackling some huge issues, income inequality, corporate power.
Big stuff.
Big stuff. But they're also offering a vision, maybe an optimistic one, for a different kind of future.
And that's what makes it interesting, I think. It's not just pointing fingers. They're looking at, the root causes.
Okay.
And proposing actual shifts in how we run things, government, the economy. It's about getting past just sort of watching things happen.
And getting involved with the ideas.
Yeah, actively engaging. So our mission, if you like, for this deep dive is to pull out the core ideas, the really key proposals from their work.
All right, so before we jump into their solutions, what's the problem they're actually diagnosing? What's wrong with the way things are now, according to them?
Well, they see a few big things that are all tangled up together. First off, really stark income inequality.
Okay, it's pretty clear.
Yeah, and alongside that, the power of huge, often monopolistic corporations. They argue that this constant drive for profit, it often overrides, people's well-being or the planet's.
So profit before people, basically.
That's the core of their critique, yeah. And they're worried this isn't just about money. It's actually like fraying the fabric of society, undermining liberty for lots of people.
It sounds like they see the system as almost stacked against the average person.
That's definitely the feeling you get. But here's the crucial part. They really stress this isn't like fate. It's not inevitable.
Okay, so there's hope.
There's hope and there's agency. They really believe we can change course. And that belief, that runs right through the whole book.
Which brings us to that title, doesn't it? The Philocratic Renaissance. It's quite a mouthful. What's that about, this sort of rebirth?
Right, philocratic, love of wisdom, essentially.
Yeah.
Their renaissance is this vision for, a fundamental shift.
A transformation.
Yeah, moving towards politics and an economy where the main goal is everyone's well-being, not just profit for some or power for a few.
Okay.
They're talking about a society built more on, say, compassion ethical bonds, where everyone feels empowered to actually contribute and, live a good life.
That contrasts pretty sharply with, well, they had that line, didn't they, about people being tools living in the parapet of the shadow of the rich.
Yeah, it's a really striking image.
It is. It paints a picture of disempowerment, really.
Exactly. And the Renaissance bit for them is about moving away from what they see as widespread apathy, maybe intellectual laziness.
Ouch.
Well, yeah. Moving from that towards an era of active critical thinking, people wanting change, participating, not just being passive observers.
Okay, so it's a big vision, sounds good, but how? How do they suggest we actually get there? What are the practical steps?
Right, the framework. They lay out 8 proposals. They see them as interconnected, working together.
8 pillars, essentially.
You could call them that, yeah. The first one is meritocratic direct democracy.
Okay, break that down.
So this isn't just voting every few years. It's about citizens being much more involved all the time, proposing ideas, debating them, voting on policies.
Online?
Using secure digital platforms, yeah. They mentioned looking at things like the Swiss referendum system.
Where people vote directly on laws.
Right. And also using citizen assemblies, chosen by sortition.
Sortition, like jury duty, random selection.
Exactly like jury duty. Randomly selecting people to deliberate on policy, aiming for a real cross-section of society, not just the usual suspects.
Interesting. So more citizen power enabled by tech. What's pillar number 2?
Number 2 is the GLLASS game structure. This is where it gets pretty innovative.
GLLASS game.
Yeah. They imagine using AI, artificial intelligence, to help teams of citizens. They call these teams nodes.
Okay. AI and citizen teams. Doing what?
Tackling complex problems. But the priorities, what problems to tackle those, are set democratically. Through a consensus priority list, they call it.
So people decide what's important, and then AI helps figure out solutions.
Kind of. AI helps with the heavy lifting, like analyzing data, modeling outcomes. But the actual policy decisions, the sensible choices, those still come from humans deliberating together. Structured deliberation, they call it.
Okay, AI is a tool, not the boss.
Yeah.
That's intriguing. What's proposal 3?
3 is citizen oversight mechanisms. This is about keeping the whole system honest.
Accountability.
Exactly. They propose setting up bodies of citizens again,
Mm.
randomly selected, but also vetted through a process they call PASS.
Pass.
We don't have the full details on PASS, but
Right.
it implies some screening or qualification. These citizens would basically watch over government actions, make sure policies are being implemented properly.
Like a permanent citizen's audit.
That's a good way to put it, yeah. Adding that layer of transparency and accountability.
Okay, so direct democracy, AI-assisted problem-solving, citizen watchdogs. What's next? Number 4.
Number 4, Civic Coins. Now, hold on. This isn't Bitcoin.
Yeah.
It's a social currency, non-transferable. You earn it by doing civic stuff.
Like volunteering or participating in those nodes.
Precisely. Volunteering, serving on oversight bodies, contributing to the GLLASS game. The idea is to shift influence away from money.
Ah, so instead of lobbyists with cash...
You have influence based on your actual contributions to society. Your earned civic coins reflect your engagement, not your bank balance or connections.
So your say is linked to your participation. That could really change things. Number 5.
5 is progressive equitable taxation. Not a brand new idea, of course, but they stress effective implementation.
Meaning making sure people actually pay.
Yeah.
Especially the very wealthy.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Particularly ultra-high net worth individuals and the really big corporations. They even suggest ratio-based taxes tied somehow to median wealth.
Oh.
And the key is that the money raised gets reinvested directly into public goods. Infrastructure, health, education,
Yeah.
things everyone benefits from.
Making the system fairer and using the proceeds visibly. Got it. Number 6.
6 is universal basic income, or, as they sometimes call it, civic income.
UBI. We hear a lot about that.
Right. They see it as a foundational safety net, a regular income for every citizen, no strings attached.
Why? What's the goal there?
To reduce poverty, obviously,
Okay.
but also to give people more security against economic shocks, like job losses from automation. They think that security frees people up
Freeze them up how?
to get more education, maybe start a small business, participate more in civic life, basically to be more secure and engaged citizens.
A baseline of security for everyone.
Okay.
2 more pillars left. Number 7.
Yep, number 7 is stakeholder governance in corporations. This one targets how big companies are run.
How so?
They propose shifting the role of top executives, making them directly accountable not just to shareholders, but to society as a whole. Stakeholders, broadly defined.
How would that work? Would they still work for the company?
It's a bit radical. They float the idea that maybe executives in these crucial roles could even be compensated differently, perhaps partly by the state, tied to achieving broader societal goals like sustainability or well-being metrics.
Wow. So fundamentally changing the purpose and accountability of corporations.
That's the idea, aligning big business with the overall health of society, not just the bottom line.
Okay, that's a big one. And the final pillar, number 8.
Number 8 is about how we measure success. They call it Eudaimonic metrics.
Eudaimonic, like human flourishing.
Exactly. Moving beyond just GDP, gross domestic product, as the main scorecard for a country.
Because GDP doesn't tell the whole story.
Not even close, they argue. Instead, we should be cracking a whole range of indicators for human flourishing. Things like health outcomes, education levels, environmental quality, citizen satisfaction, participation rates.
A dashboard for well-being, essentially.
That's it. And they believe if you change what you measure, you change what you prioritize. Policy would naturally shift towards things that genuinely improve people's lives across the board.
Getting away from what they called complacency and victim mindset politics.
Right. That mentality of the martyr. Shifting focus to real, broad-based progress.
Okay, so that's the 8 pillars. It's quite a comprehensive blueprint. What's the sort of underlying message tying it all together?
Well, I think at its core, it's a call for democracy to be something we do, not just something we have. A living practice of governing ourselves together.
Active participation.
Yeah. And for the economy to be a tool that actually empowers people and builds up communities, not just accumulates wealth in narrow pockets.
And they emphasize this isn't about, like, storming the barricades, right? It's a different kind of revolution.
Totally. They call it a revolution of education and critical thinking. It's about changing minds first.
Yeah, they had that really powerful quote. Something like, critical thinking is the only essential step toward building a true direct democracy.
A democracy that lifts each other up, where the success of one translates to the success of all.
That really sums it up, doesn't it?
It absolutely does. It's about designing society for humans, optimizing for our well-being, not just for profit. And your final message is pretty simple, really.
Which is?
Read, learn, and think for yourself. The power starts there, with an informed, thinking public.
So wrapping this up then, we've gone through Civic Party, the philocratic renaissance. We've heard their critique of where we are now.
Their vision for this philocratic renaissance.
These 8 big ideas, these pillars for getting there, from direct democracy and AI-assisted policy to civic coins and new ways of measuring success.
And that constant thread running through it all. The need for understanding, for thinking critically, and for getting involved. That's essential for any positive change, according to them.
Which leaves us with a final thought, maybe something to chew on. Considering all these proposals we've discussed, if you had to pick just one change, what single shift do you think would make the biggest difference in creating a society that genuinely puts human well-being first?
That's a tough one.
It is something for our listeners to ponder. And maybe a reason to check out the book itself for more detail. Thanks for joining us for this deep dive.